So I'm going to say some stuff right now. I'm going to slice it up. But okay. Hey, welcome to the first ever Sticks Out podcast or whatever it's going to be interview. And here I have with me Nick Woolsey. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Nick.
Where are you, Nick?
I'm at Wild Sun Jungle Resort and Animal Rescue Center in Costa Rica, and not a bad place to be.
Whoa. What I gotta ask. I feel like people listening gotta ask this question. What is the wildest animal you've seen on location? Like what? Like I'm just
Well,
burning.
we've got several. They've got about four howler monkeys, and two white-faced monkeys. I've got a little deer that's super cool, and we've got the one I've hung out with the most is they had a baby anteater. The mother was killed
Cool.
by a falling tree, and the hotel brought it, called, and they went and got it.
Huh.
So one of my duties for a while was the anteater. We want to keep him kind of foraging, so he keeps developing his abilities to live on his own. So every day I take him and I put him in different places that have ants. But then he tries to climb the trees, and then I, can only let him go so high, and and he's amazing. The anteater is just the most amazing little animal. So,
Huh.
and now we've set him up. We built a new home for him around a tree that we had limbed a bit, so that he can be on his own.
Hmm.
And that's good for him. But I miss being able to take him on the ant walks.
So perhaps you found your spirit animal. I'm guessing, or is this?
He's so cool.
So
Coolest little guy.
so real quick, let's. So maybe some people. I'm gonna not make the assumption that people know who you are, but I'm gonna give you a grandiose introduction, and you should add whatever you would like. But so Nick has the company Playpoi, which for the past I'm guessing 12 to 15 years.
Yeah, I guess since 2003. I mean, I started Poi 2001, and I think I got the Playpoi URL in 2003.
And so you've traveled the entire world, you've taught on the internet to become, tough call now, I guess, with Drex, but probably still the most popular YouTube poi spinner just sort of in the universe. And so that gives you a place for sure, and namely first in YouTube is one way to say it in addition. But in addition, it's like and consistency, and I'm just like a huge fan. I when I first, just to give everybody some knowledge, I learned poi from Matt Terry and your videos. Those are my two spots that I learned all of my poi in the beginning, and it was kind of funny because I always, just to be honest, like I always thought, like, man, that guy Nick is just really nice. This guy Matt Terry looks like a guy I would meet at the Spin Jam. He kind of had more of that dreadlock image. So for some reason, I think I related more to Matt than you, but I also saw more content coming from you. So it was like, oh man, this is like all we got, and I was really amazed just how you guys could do stuff like that when there was really nothing happening. This is kind of an interesting. I have a question for you. So so now that like things are, I mean, obviously the way you view this whole flow arts thing has changed over the years, but like for where you were when you started and where you are now, like what are the biggest changes that you've seen like happen to yourself and even to the community around you, whether it's flow arts or the people you surround? That's a huge question, but you surround yourself
Yeah,
around.
and there's sort of three. Those are kind of three questions. I mean, I've had my own journey with Poi, and those are howler monkeys in the background, by the way. If you hear something going, those are the. I think those are wild howler monkeys that are probably coming out to check out the howler monkeys we have in rehabilitation. I my my personal practice with Poi probably peaked or went up there in 2010, and now is the year that I started really having trouble with my shoulder. And the troubles I've had with my shoulders that really affected my boy thing. And I've gone through phases of practicing since then, but it's never been the same because it kind of sucks not knowing what's going to make it worse. What do I need to be careful with? There's some things I know are okay, There's some things I know are bad, and then there's a lot of things where I'll only find out if they're good or bad by doing them until my shoulder's worse. And if my shoulder gets worse, it might take months to sort of get it back to whatever progress I've made.
So how have you kept motivated during, like basically potentially losing the ability to do poi? How have you stayed motivated beyond that?
Well, I mean, I've just done other things. Like since 2010, I've been through all kinds of waves of doing acro yoga or handstands, or blues dancing, guitar. It was in a way like a motivation just to do other things. So I come back and do some poi, and then I go, okay, make sure I'm careful. There's white face monkeys up there. This place is surrounded with monkeys. But up until 2010, like for the first 10 years of doing poi, I really maintained a steady practice. Like I was doing it a lot. And then two things. I mean, also what happened was what was motivating me in all those first years was kind of a vision of how I wanted to be able to spin. And around 2010, I could spin that way. Like I could flow with poi in a way that was the vision. And in a way, it was like, well, what's next, right? And then I for sure see people doing like the tech poi stuff. It's beyond me, like, oh, I could try to get into 3 poi, or 4 poi, or I see people doing stuff that's sort of beyond the level I ever got to. But that wasn't my vision. Like, I kind of achieved my original vision in a certain way. And then it's like, oh, maybe I'll take up guitar, right? And then I just started being interested in other things. So poi's continued to be, there's a lot of things about it that still interest me. Like lately it's been the photography, that I'm really interested in having a lot of fun with. But that raw desire to just pick up the poi and practice, it's been a lot more inconsistent since then.
But then I guess finding other things, whether they're related to poi or not, has sort of given you new breath to some small extent within poi, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything, inherently things, any creative pursuit informs all the other ones. So for sure, like the years I was in Vancouver taking all those dance classes, those were definitely affecting the way I moved. And I can see when I see videos of me, how I'm dancing with poi since then, I see that affected what I do. As far as what I've seen in the poi world, I mean, the whole tech poi thing happened. That was not happening. I mean, when I was starting, there weren't. I would travel, and there was like Ronan and Matt Terry and Andy Huntington, and I would really have to track down the spinners who were really, Utah. I would hear of people or see videos. And there was a number of years where that was the case. There was like a small, from what I could see on the internet or in real person, there was a small amount of people that were really pushing a level. And then it went boom, right? All of a sudden, there's like hundreds of people that are spinning on a high level. And that's because there was a flourishing of YouTube and everybody putting up the content on the internet. And there was also a flourishing of events. So, like at first, in my early days, there was fire drums, right? And people were going, and there was Uber poi that Rob Thorburn was doing, and that was about it. I mean, plus Burning Man and EJC. And the EJC, they hated the poi spinners back then because they were like, "What? Who are you guys? Why are you coming to the EJC?" But then it started boom, 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 and all of a sudden there was wildfire, and now there's backfire, and then there's 20, 30 events happen every year in the States now.
Way more. I would guess more. Which, yeah. Huh.
So yeah, I mean, the whole art form just kind of went poof. And the whole tech poi thing happened. And along with that, also, there was also a bit of a change. And I don't go to the American events because I got banned from the States, but along with Poi Chat, I also became aware that there started to be a lot more kind of trolls, like, a bit of a harsher attitude that I see online. That, which because I don't encounter that in person. because the people who come to my events, the people who like me are the people who, they see me as like I'm this mild-mannered, self-effacing kind of goofball. And the people who get attracted to that are really sweet people. So the people who come to my events are most of them kind of shy, self-effacing people.
Hmm.
So they're great. My events are great. I like them. But I don't think it's a good cross-section of who might go to the festivals, right? Or what's actually out there.
Where do you think that, this is just a crazy question to come, where do you think that comes from, that trolling attitude? I'm just curious, like, is it age, or is it, I don't know, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was mostly like seeing some of the forums on Poi Chat where I started being like, oh, it's just like, and it can be great. There's also lots of great people in Poi Chat. But sometimes I've seen conversations, or I'll hear of conversations that get pretty cutty. And some of that's a lot, some of that's youth. It's the same kind of thing I just see on YouTube. Right? Like the way, like YouTube, you can see a TED Talk and you look at the comments and there's all these like, young guys who aren't, very nice. And they're kind of like cutting down anything. And it was a bit of a shame to see that become an element of like the boy forums, but it might just be inevitable that it's just at large.
Right.
There's a certain percentage of young people who basically go online with kind of, to cut other people down or whatever. I don't know why they do it, but.
Right. Yeah, no, it's super interesting. I was just thinking as you were mentioning this, as in 2010, this is just kind of a random note for anybody watching, but I think I had a really long conversation with you outside of Sideshow Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, out front, talking to you a long time about the blues dancing or the dancing you were getting into right around that time. It's just interesting, just like full circle conversation at the moment. I'm like, whoa, you've said this to me before, but we've only seen each other maybe a total of twice ever. So, okay, cool. Let me ask you something else. Where are you going with Poi? What's happening? Like, what's Nick going to do? Like...
Oh, well, lately I've got a real, I've been bitten by the photography bug. It's really been interesting, both with Poi, but also, I don't know how it started. Some of it was, a few times I've wanted to take the photography further, but this time I decided, often it's been trying to work with a photographer. And somehow, some months back, I started being like, no, I want to learn how to take better photos. I started learning more, and then I started learning about taking photos of the Milky Way and how to do it. And then I started planning some shoots and realizing it's really fun to get a vision, especially with something like when you want to have like Poi under the Milky Way, and it takes a lot of planning. It's like, well, where's the Milky Way going to be? Right? Mm-hmm. Where do we want to do it? What apps do I use to work all that out? What kind of lens do I need? Who do I collaborate with? And it becomes this whole project of the vision that I want me spinning Poi under the Milky Way. And I really like that kind of artistic project. And then I went through a phase, it was when I was in Guatemala just a few months back, when I suddenly was just, for days, I was just having all these visions of different kind of Poi photos I want to take. And then that led to going online and just looking at good photography. Looking at some photo awards and just getting inspired by some of the photography I was seeing, and then feeding back into the ideas I was having. And before you know it, I had a list of 50 sort of visions of shots I wanted.
Right. Huh.
And then what's fun is every time I go out and try to do something, that of course, it's never quite it's always, yes, but if only. So I'm and what's also fun is that, like back then in Guatemala, I just started looking forward on the calendar and being like, for the Milky Way, you need a new moon. And started mapping out like, okay, when are the new moons for this year and where am I going to be? And I just booked an Airbnb. Me and some friends have agreed to go to one of the Canary Islands, Tenerife.
Oh, I see them on my globe as one of them way out there islands that I've...
And it's one of the best places in the world to see the night sky, because it's out in the Atlantic. It goes up to like, I don't know, 15,000 feet. It goes really high. They've got an observatory on top. 300 clear days a year, sunny almost every day. And apparently, I've seen photos of this from the top. It's like you're in space. Right?
Wow.
And the island's got beautiful. The island itself has like cliffs and these incredible forests and rock formations. So yeah, we're going there kind of on a photo safari.
Oh, cool. So
I'm kind
photos.
of mapping out the whole year where I'm going to be for the Milky Way shots and for the full moon shots, and going up north in September to do like the Northern Lights.
Nice.
And it all takes like to learn any of it. Like the Northern Lights, there's a lot you need to know to get good photos of it. Right? So each of those projects is learning a lot about photography. Learning a lot about how do you capture a phenomenon like that. Like how do you find the Northern Lights? And then finding a good place to shoot it, right? So then it's like, well, who do I do it with? So it's like,
So are you gonna add poi? Is it gonna be? Are you gonna like run out there with some glow poi and every once in a while? Okay.
Yeah, and what I want, like a lot of photos I've been doing lately are just me, but what I want is to start doing shots where we have a landscape, and where you have like, I don't know, several of us, or maybe like a dozen of us, like boom, 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 out across the landscape or making a formation. So all these people making a poi orb on, and sort of in a day map out where everybody's going to be.
Nice.
We all got a plan and a way to communicate, and I don't know, a megaphone. Like, start spinning. 3, 2, 1.
Sounds awesome.
And try to get some crazy photo, and it's like the Northern Lights above us, and poi spinners making these formations in the landscape.
So transitioning to so photos of the new future for Nick. It seems like that's awesome. It's interesting too because it seems like a lot of, I mean, I guess it's just normal, but a lot of spinners get into being photographers or DJs. I can think of Nikki Evers or Willow as easy examples off the top of my head. But so I guess as a couple more questions, and I guess we can let you go. I guess what kind of like what kind of advice would you offer, not just to somebody? Because it's interesting because you are, just to kind of preface it, you're sort of the dream of the online tutorial spinner, basically, right? Like I want to be recognized. I'm just being honest, right? It may not be like may not feel like that financially, but in terms of like where, I just want to be honest, where people would like to be is somewhere where Nick is, or maybe Drex, and clearly there's some issues with people getting there, and maybe not even a viable lifestyle in a lot of ways, but like, what kind of advice would you give to people who are trying to make tutorials online and just trying to get out there? Like, should they... Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, what would you say from your years of experience? Because that's really what you've been doing, like, from a financial standpoint, from, like, a reward standpoint. Like, what kind of advice would you give somebody getting into trying to share their knowledge with other people?
Well, I really have to think about that. I mean, I wish I knew myself for some things, like, in 2010, 2011, that was also when my videos were getting a lot more hits back then. Like I remember when I was in Bali 2010, I put up a video and within weeks it had 40,000 hits. And now it's been like the last few years, it's, there's various reasons for that. And maybe it's time for me to retire. But my videos don't get nearly as many hits, and that makes it does make it less motivating. When like I was really proud of some of the videos I was putting up a couple months back with the overlays. Some of those videos I was really proud of those. I mean, it was like the background, the overlays. I was like, this is like the best stuff I've ever made. And like of those videos, the one about why 3 circles makes 4 anti-spin, which I think is a really important subject that confuses a lot of people. 2 months later, it's had 10,000 hits. But the random video I made of like the iPhone versus the Sony a6000 camera, that's at 20,000. That's the only video I've put up in like a couple of years that's been really got a lot of hits, and it's because people are searching. If you do like iPhone versus Sony a6000, it's like the number one. But I kind of wish I knew how to. So I would like to get a couple more years. Like ultimately, I think at some point I'll just retire from this. I would love to know what my next, what I'm going to do. I don't I don't know. I'm hoping maybe it'll be something related to photography and videography. But I would love to get all the hits back up. I was trying to launch this. I've been working on this toy map of the world, and that's been a project. I've been trying to do that for 8 years now, and I have my karma hiring programmers is at least as bad as my karma dating,
Wow.
which means bad. But yeah, 8 years of trying to do the map, and it still hasn't taken off. So I'm trying to find people who might want to collaborate on that. And because I mean, the internet keeps changing. So my idea was offer something new that's really useful. I get so sick of all the internet guru stuff about, build your list and, like offer a free ebook and all that stuff. I think it's all, a lot of that's junk. Well, I thought, why don't, if I can offer a resource that's actually really useful, that is something the community wants, the community needs, that's a win-win situation. It's offering something, hey, this would be good for everybody. It would help people organize events, get their local spin jam going, find other people to play with. It could really be useful for it. And in doing that, I could help promote my events as well. Right? So I thought this is a win for everybody. But it has yet to actually take off. But for making videos, I mean, it's really about find your style and not be afraid of letting your personality come through. And one of my successes is don't make it too complicated. I do this often, but often because I've had to sometimes. It's just get stuff out. I see a lot of people, they think, I wanted to get a vision, and then it never gets finished because they want all the things and all the layers and all the this and all the that, and then they never finish it. Well, in the last few years, I've increasingly taken, let's just roll the camera. Maybe I have to shoot it 5 times, so let's just keep it really simple so I get something out. And that's really helped me to keep making videos in the past years, is because if you set it up where you're going to need to do like days of editing, there's a good chance you'll never do it. But if you say, and this is the same advice I say if you want to start running. If you set the goal, I'm going to run 45 minutes every day, you're almost guaranteed to be dead in the water. But if you make your goal, okay, 3 times a week, I'm just going to put my running shoes on and get out the front door and at least get to the end of the block, that's the goal. Shoes on the feet, get to the end of the block. I can come back if I don't feel like it.
Right.
But the goal is just get the shoes on the feet. When people do that, they have a much, much higher success rate. And what happens is a few months later, they're running. But they did it by making the goal small. So I think the same advice goes for getting up content, is tell yourself, just go out and shoot anything. Just go out and shoot something. And then look through it and find something you like in it.
Yeah. No, I heard some interesting things. You said there's 2 things that I heard in that little... I heard, number one, it was just interesting for you even to say that sometimes, and I think maybe anybody that are content creators online, I'm one of Drex's Patreon people, and he just mentioned video didn't do as well or something like that he didn't want. And it's funny to see that all these people that are like bigger community, whatever, visual, like that the validation of being seen is still like a thing. So that was just interesting to see you say that, because I mean I feel that way all the time too.
Except it's not just for me. It's also, but it's not really just the reason the hits. I've got my whole career tied up in all of this. Which, by the way, think twice before you do that. Is what I like to say to people.
Well, what do you mean by that? Think twice before you do that.
A lot of people they think, like, oh wow, it's so great, you're making a career out of something you love. But what they forget is the reason they love it is partially because they're only doing it for fun. Right? The moment you take something that was fun and you try to make your job out of it, it's not as fun. Because all of a sudden, like, whether or not it brings in all the stress, right, on And for me, like a lot of, I've fallen on my face. For every time something's worked, I've fallen flat on my face 9. Like, and I've fucked up. I've messed up a lot of things. Like the math. And people don't get, like, it's like the hundreds and hundreds of hours. Like, I have tendinitis because of all the typing and all the computer work. And I still have nothing to show anybody. Like, that can suck. It's like there's a lot of people, you try to turn what was your hobby, something you love, and you make it your work. Most of the fire spinners I know who did that, I see them a few years later, and they're just off to another wedding to do another performance, and they don't like it anymore. It can be great. I mean, some people do it and they still like it, but a lot of the time, when people turn their not work thing that they like into work, it all gets, all your self-esteem and your stress and people think, oh yeah, but who cares about money? But all those, like, if money stresses you, I mean, if you get fired from your job, or if your boss said, oh, actually, we're going to pay you 1/3 of what we were paying you, that might affect you. And it affects me too. Like, if something like this last year, my income, it's all down to like half or 1/3 of what it was, and it was never much. Like, this last year I'm making less than I can live on. So it's like, what do I do? That creates some stress in my life.
Yeah, no, no, that's I mean, shoot, man, that's the question of all questions. I always tell people I know, it's like, usually when you're really good at a job, people want to pay you for it, and you don't want to do it anymore. Like, that's like the reverse of it, like, you kind of are losing. At least for me, I find myself, I do flow arts work too, and I asking the question, thinking the same thing to me, like, why do I keep doing this? I think for me, I'm really good at a constant evaluation of why I do this. And I'm like, I keep in my mind, you know what? I could just walk away anytime. Not to be mean or anything like that, but I mean, like, if I needed to step back, for example, I can think of a lot of community members that have had to step back, like Zan, or, I mean, everybody. I'm like the oldest guy at all these American festivals. There's a few others that have been around as long, like Chris Rovo and some other guys in the scene, but not really. I mean, literally, probably 90% of the people that I started this whole thing with, like, are gone owning businesses. Some have passed away. I mean, just so many different things that have happened to all these people. So it's interesting. It just kind of brings up a bigger thing, which is, like, you said the word career. That was the other thing I was going to mention. Like, just a reevaluation of what a career means. Because, I mean, in some ways, yourself and me and other people, their career is flow arts. But it's just interesting, like, when I'm, something else, my body is gone or whatever, like, what did that career mean? Was it meaningful to me? And I think why I keep doing it is I think about that every day. Every day I'm like, man, like, not that I'm denying that I like spinning and stuff, because I really still do, and everything's all awesome, but I always like to just, because I've had this, this is funny, I had this conversation recently with a guy who messaged me, and he had problems with somebody that were taking his tricks and showing them online or getting all this credit, and was feeling a little frustrated about it. And, I feel that way too sometimes, right? Like, I've felt that way about tricks. I felt that way about business models. I felt that way about a lot of things. And sometimes when you make it your business, you have to change the way you think about it, right? Like, everything becomes more personal or something. Maybe that's something. It's like, if you were not to get as many views, maybe that means not as much money is coming in for you. It's kind of personal.
And that's exactly brings us back to where my frustration with the videos not getting as many hits it's because my career's all tied up in that. Right? Because I want, same thing, like the last few years, my events, they get full enough that people have a great time, but not full enough where I make any money. And I'm 43 now, and it's like I'm making most years the money that would be great if I was in my 20s, but I'm beginning to have, like, a lot of dental work I might need, and some more concerns about what am I going to do, and I get concerned about that. So I do kind of wish I had another job I could do. I'm hoping I think of something. It would be nice if I had a bit more of a secure way to know I'm paying my rent, and then I wouldn't care whether the videos were going viral or not, because it wouldn't, like, because right now, to some extent in my mind, I'll think whether or not I ever have a garden, whether or not I ever have a home, whether or not I start putting any money away for later. Sort of, it's too much involved with whether these videos are going to get hits and whether or not things go up or down.
Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
That's interesting, because such a side of this. I mean, this is why I like this little podcast. I gotta be honest, is that there's such a side of what we do that is kind of hidden. Like when you were mentioning people are trolls online, probably a lot of those people are pretty good people. I can be completely honest. They are good people. And I think a lot of people that are seen as really like famous, or like yourself or Drex or other people, I mean, they're working their butts off, and it's no joke, to try to make this thing work, or other hustles that make this thing work, or whatever it is. Like I teach little kids science, right? That's my side hustle that keeps me in this game, But it's like, I think there's a side of this that it might be good when people start to get started. That, I mean, what I hear from you is it's okay also to be a hobbyist. I feel like that's like such a forgotten thing in this flow world. Like, it's okay to be not technically skilled, to dress up in your fancy clothes, and to go out there and rock fire. Like, that's awesome. You could practice once a year for all I care. Like, I mean, safely, I suppose. But like, I think that there's such a distorted opinion on what a career means and what your future could look like, and how much work that actually takes, and how difficult that actually is to do. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I vibrate a lot on that. But okay, just to wrap this up, because shoot, Nick, that was an amazing conversation. I feel, even though it seemed really sad, and there were moments that I personally, it's only sad because I'm seeing it's like mirror vibe, I'm seeing like, oh man, like, I'm seeing that. And I think that's a new part of your story that is starting to come out, is that, you are such an amazing mirror of what it means to have somebody that's had a career in the flow arts. It's interesting because I've known a couple of those people. We can use Dan or Linda as interesting examples of people that have passed away that basically, to some extent, their future and career was engaged in flow arts, and they met an end in one way. And then you have the people that maintain flow arts that are still around, right? That haven't decided, and it's just such an interesting, man, it's just kind of amazing to me, just thinking about all of that. And, even thinking of people like, just right now, someone could listen to this and reevaluate their career choices, which in my mind is a good thing. It's just like, I'm just going to be like, I'm going to be the best contact staff spinner ever, and I'm going to be a computer programmer. Dude, that sounds like the right call, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, that's often what I actually recommend, although also a lot of people there's a lot of people who could be better at what I do than I am. Like I'm good at making the videos, but I don't think I've been very good. I think I bungle all the career parts.
I mean, it's a path, right? Like, it's a path, and we're all on these different ones. So, Nick, so right now, do you have any retreats coming up before we leave you want to let anybody know about, or anything exciting before we go?
Yeah, the next one is in Leviathan, West Coast, BC, near Vancouver.
Oh,
that
my
one's
gosh.
amazing.
That's space! That's space!
Yeah, and people spend, like, at Leviathan, if I add up how many hours I see people just actually playing with toys, Leviathan blows everything out of the water. It's just, people just keep getting pulled back onto the floor, and they just play like little wind-up dolls for like the whole time. It's incredible. And I'll be back here at Wild Sun next year. I really like what Jeremy's doing with the space. Like, it's just such a special place.
You're talking about Jeremy Levine? Is that?
Yeah. Jeremy in the pool. I don't know, it's just Wild Sun, like the whole animal rescue mission that they're doing. It's, people come here and it's just a vibe here people are really touched with, so I'll be back here a bunch.
Awesome.
And if I find the right people to maybe collaborate with, the flow map of the world might still happen.
Yeah, I've heard a little musings. That's you say the word programmer, I just get developer. I'm just like, I'm gonna tag out of that, past that. And okay, cool. Well, thank you, Nick. I really appreciate you taking a second. It looks like life is amazing, regardless of wherever your career is at. Life looks amazing over there. I mean, holy moly!
Yeah.
Kind of feel like visiting now. And girlfriend's trying to get out of town, so maybe. So thank you for your time, and reach out anytime. And you guys, anyone at home, can check out Nick at playpoi.com and support him because he's doing amazing things, and I hope to see you in the future. Bye.